Okay, welcome in everyone. We are so glad that you are joining us for our Calculus for Economics major. We want you to understand your options and choosing the right calculus series. I'm Cynthia Varenga, she, her pronouns. I'm the lead academic advisor in the economics department. We also are a clustered advising center, so we also advise for history and East Asian studies. And I'm joined here today by, and I'll have her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Janine Wilson, and I'm a professor of teaching economics here in the economics department at UC Davis. And I'm also, I just have really the person in charge of all of the undergraduate program curriculum. I've been here for over 20 years. I love this program, and I am so happy that you are joining us.
We'll go ahead and continue forward. So just to let you know, we are going to do just a brief introduction of how things are going. We're going to talk about the importance of calculus in economics and its applications to careers in economics. We'll explain the difference between our three calculus series at UC Davis. We want you to understand these differences so that way you can choose the right series come your registration this week as you get started. And I will pass it on to Professor Wilson.
Okay, so what's wonderful about the field of economics is it really puts you in a position to think quantitatively about questions that are related to people and places and society and civilization. And so when you're looking at how we tool you up to ask and answer questions very effectively and in a way that garners respect from your community, we want you to have the ability to model mathematically. Let's talk about maybe growth, like economic growth in a country. How do we quantify progress when it comes to growth? When you're looking at, if you're an analyst for a business, what variables should you be thinking about? This ability to combine it, we're social science. You're combining questions about people and places and progress with this toolbox of mathematical modeling and quantitative reasoning. So it's really the place where economists get a lot of what makes them special in jobs, especially right now where you can plug in whatever into AI and AI will spit out whatever answer is out on the internet. But really the ability to think about what questions we should be asking and the ability to analyze whether the answers we're getting are actually answering the right question. So what an economist uses mathematical modeling for could be when a big wave of immigration comes from outside of any country. Does that complement the current labor force? Like, does it add jobs to the labor force or does it remove jobs? Or if it adds or removes jobs, what sectors does it add or remove jobs in? Or it could be when the government gives out benefits in the form of like food stamps or SNAP benefits. Does that impact the next generation? So pregnant women who get food support, do their kids earn more money than if the women had not had access to food support? These are all things that questions that folks in our department have asked and answered using this quantitative reasoning. So that's where calculus becomes really important. This ability to kind of see stories in numbers and in trends. Like algebra will get you so far, balancing an equation gets you so far, but really when it comes to like the real world, it has curves, it has shapes that you require calculus to really understand. And so that's where, as an economics major, we really, really want you to have this really ability to think in numbers. And that's what these calculus series really give you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. As we continue, so we want you to understand the different calculus series offered at UC Davis. So we have three different calculus series. We have Calculus 19, 17, and 21. For the purpose of the economics major, we have different requirements based on the series that you choose. But for now, we'll talk about each one and the differences. So the 19 series, Calculus 19A, 19B, and 19C, it has 3 lectures with a weekly 2-hour lab. When we say lab, this is more of a computer lab as you're doing, computer programming essentially. And so this doesn't go too much in depth with traditional calculus series. It kind of goes over the basis and knowledge, but it covers topics like differential equations, linear algebra, probability, and it focuses on the applications in economics. So what's wonderful about this new series that was created not too long ago is that it's calculus for the social sciences with an emphasis in economics. And so the problem solving and problem sets that you're starting to learn will start here. And as you continue with our intermediate micro and macro theory classes and further on, it will give you such a strong foundation into those classes. This is the target audience is the students in social sciences, including yourself. And it's ideal for students who don't need more than that. As economists, the most that you need is Math 19A, B, and C. And like I said, it has a 2-hour computer lab with the discussion integrated, so you understand the math concepts. The 17 series is basically calculus for the biological sciences. So unless you want to go more in depth with pre-health, biological sciences, biology, life sciences, then this would be a good pathway to you. Many of our pre-health, including pre-med, pre-dental, they take the 17 series just because of the calculus they need for their, whether it's their minor or double majors. It, again, doesn't go too much in depth as a traditional calculus course, but it covers the significant topics, just like the 19 series. But the problem sets and the solving is with an emphasis in biology. Target series audience, like I said, is the biological and life sciences. And for the purpose of the economics major, we only require Math 17A and 17B, so 2 quarters of calculus. Lastly, UC Davis, we offer Calculus 21 series. For the economics major requirements, we only require 21A and 21B. Even though it doesn't sound like we have, why do we have 3 classes required for the Calculus 19 for 17 and 21? It's just because of the depth of calculus that you need. And the 21 series is the traditional calculus. Many of the STEM majors, you'll see students in physics and calculus and engineering, so calculus for engineers. It really goes in depth and is more theoretical. And so the target audience is for students who need to go beyond the basics that you need, as I said, for economists, but this, you want to go more into vector analysis, linear algebra. Maybe you're thinking of a PhD program or graduate program that requires that further analysis in calculus. Then this would be a great series for you. Also, if you are really interested in doing research, and again, a lot of the data analysis that you need is through the 21 series. Maybe you're interested in a double major with statistics or math, then you would need this series anyways for that double major. But again, for the purpose of the economics major, we only need, as far as the 19 series, A, B, C. So that's the one we would recommend the most, and the difference in this calculus series. So when you start UC Davis or maybe prior, you'll receive notifications about a math readiness assessment. So before it was called a placement exam, but now they really want to assess where your skills at. Where's your level of preparation for our math courses at Davis? So all students who register in Math 12, 17A, 19A, or 21A are required to take this math readiness assessment. The Math 12, we didn't talk about that, but that is pre-calculus. So depending on your math score, you might be placed into pre-calculus. The math readiness assessment is only available online, and you need to take this exam or assessment prior to taking the class. Now, You might not get your scores in time for this week's registration, and that's okay. You will want to register for the class that you feel is most appropriate for you. So if you feel like the 19 is best for you, or maybe you do need pre-calculus, you need background, then you can enroll in Math 12. The most important is to approach the exam with honesty. It is extremely important that you take this based on your understanding of calculus. If you use extra, AI or all the study tips, if you have everything on your computer, then your score is not truthful. And when you get into that class, you are not going to be prepared. It's going to be very difficult to start this series if you lied about your score essentially. So the most important is for you to take this exam with your understanding of what you previously had in your maybe AP calculus classes or algebra classes, or maybe you took AP Calc, but you want more a foundation, you want to repeat these classes, then you'll be taking this exam as you take one of these classes. The math readiness assessment you can find on the math website, and they do have preparation tips. So we're not saying, go in it completely blind. You can still prepare for it with, basic understanding, and they have tools for that as well. This is just an example. This is also on the Academic Assistance Tutoring Center website for the math class chart. And so you can find that. We can also post that. But this is an idea of how you can go, based on the questions you may ask of where you would be placed. So you can kind of see the concepts and examples. And if you feel like you can solve those, then that could, potentially place you into a Math 12 or maybe Math 19 or 21. So based on your scores, you'll see here, you'll need a total score of 25 plus for at least pre-calculus. And then for 17A, 19A, you need a 30 plus total score. You do need a trig subscore for the calculus for biological sciences, so the 17. For the 19 series, you don't need a trig subscore, which is great. And then for the 21, you do need a trig subscore. So depending on what you get for the assessment, you can use this chart. It's also on the math website to determine where you are. If you are placed in a higher math, it's still up to you whether or not you want to do that, or maybe start with pre-calc. And thankfully, the economics major can be completed easily within a 4-year timeline, even a 3-year timeline. So if you do need to even get placed in Math B or Math C or Math D, which we have students who place in those, there is still, a timeline where you can graduate within those 4 years. And I'll let.
So I think this is my slide. Yes. Okay, good. So making the best choice. What's so funny about math up to this point is it's kind of been like checking off the box. Like, I have to take this math class. I picked this math class. I have to pass. I have to blah, blah, blah. And then you could forget it after the class is over. That is no longer the case. We actually use the math. It makes the economics make sense. So the goal when choosing a math class is to think about what you want to learn. Like, what do I want to learn? Because that's something that I'll have in my toolbox forevermore to ask and answer questions, to think quantitatively, to put on your resume that you really get how to tell stories with numbers. So for that reason, Math 17, I don't recommend unless you are pre-health. Like if you're pre-med, then take Math 17. All of their examples are health science examples. But typically, unless you're double majoring in econ and biology, I would not recommend 17. So your question really is between the 19 series and the 21 series. In the 21 series, so both actually do a lot of math and a lot of calculus. The 21 series, you're going to be doing things like, what is the area of a donut? What is the velocity that I have to do in terms of I don't even know. It's the engineering. It's the math for engineers. And that can be helpful in your PhD program in economics. I did not take that series at my school. I took the 19. The reason I took the 19 is that teaches you calculus in the context of how you're going to use it. I know everybody sees 3 courses and they see the 2-hour lab. What you're doing in that time frame is learning the math in a way that you can use the math. So we actually dive very in depth into the math that's needed in economics or in social sciences. We do less area of a donut and more, how do you really understand trend lines? How do you really understand how to program such that you get the answer that you're the answer to the question you're actually asking, and not some superfluous answer that you're getting kind of as a side note that you don't realize is the wrong answer. So really, I highly recommend Math 19 for almost everyone. If you already know, you're like, look, I want to be an economics professor. I want to go get a PhD in math. Totally, totally fine. Go like take your 21 series and be good. The beauty of the 19 series is if you take 19 ABC, and then at that point you're like, okay, I actually do want a PhD in economics. Yeah, that's what I did. Then you can take the further scores. We have a pathway to get back on that path if you want. But really, your goal with this calculus series is to understand it, not check it off. And when it comes to understanding it, in almost every case, I recommend the 19 series. It'll take a little more time. There'll be a little bit more in class, but it means you're with someone that you can get help and really understand what's going on. In the 21 series, you're taking it and you don't have the lab, but then you're just expected to do that kind of on your own. So again, that is kind of how I feel about the calculus for economics. I use it. I want to know it. I want to understand it. And so for that reason, I highly, highly recommend that. Number one, you're super honest about your assessments. Unfortunately, up to this point, it's been like, you have to get an A, you have to get an A, you have to get a perfect score. I know because I get that pressure. But for the math assessment, it's not about competition. It's not about getting a perfect score. It's about saying like, okay, where am I? And what do I need to know to get to this next step? And it's this knowledge, like studying to learn, that will really help you in these math classes, because that's what then will prepare you so that when you're in my economics class, I'm teaching public finance. Actually, our first lecture's tomorrow. And we're talking about taxation and how to design a tax system in a way that's efficient but still fair. And we're looking at those numbers. Really, it's that quantitative intuition that helps you. And that is something that Math 19 does a really good job with. So those are my 2 cents.
And can you talk a little bit about the examples of career pathways in economics with an emphasis on our specializations?
So, when it comes to the specializations, we have a wide variety of things you can do with economics. It can be public policy. It can be a data analyst for Amazon or Google. It can be teaching economics at the high school level or at the college level. There's also just like, oh my gosh, you can do anything. It's decision making. It's marketing. It's all of these careers, forecasting. A lot of folks take an economics degree and then before they go to law school, because it helps them with their quantitative and their critical thinking that's required to really become a really good lawyer. So there are a wide variety of things you can do. When it comes to which calculus series for your career goals, again, the only time, I'm just trying to think if there's any other time, unless you want a PhD in economics, 19 is your go-to. When it comes to data analytics, 19 will do the thing. You'll actually get familiar with the data analytics pathway. You'll get familiar with the programming required in Math 19. When it comes to decision making, you're really using that calculus. We require calculus to think about game theory and think about how people make decisions. We say not rationally; they're still rational, but it's sometimes people make decisions in ways that are, gosh, like not as clean. Like, I don't know about you, but if you give me $300, I'm like, oh, thanks. And then if you take $300 from me, I'm like, you're a monster. Like we tend to be much more unhappy with money taken away from us than money given to us. So for that reason, we have to like adjust our math. That takes some higher level math to do that. But that's something 19 would set you up for as well. And then public policy, again, that intuition's so helpful. In public policy, you want to be able to read the report coming in from the economics PhD and say, like, huh, what did you assume here? This might be off a little bit. Or you're reading a newspaper article and you're like, wait, how big was that sample size? Like, this doesn't line up. So again, it's like the economists are kind of like the ones who can really dig into whether someone's thinking of all the different unintended consequences, intended consequences. Are they really looking at the big picture? Again, Math 19 sets you up for that. So when it comes to all the different specializations, you're good with Math 19. Again, if you want that PhD in economics and you decide your junior, senior year, you just take that math at the same time. I just had a student do that. And she actually added a math minor because she decided she really wanted to go on and do a PhD. I had to graduate before I realized that. And so then I went back at night and took some linear algebras and differential equations. And I don't know, it was really fun when I was more chill about it. So either way, it's kind of like puzzles, doing puzzles. So I think that's, yeah, gosh, I still advocate Math 19. All right, Cindy.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I just wanted to really show that even through all of our specializations or emphases in our classes, the 19 series will be perfectly suitable for you and for those future careers that Professor Wilson had mentioned. So because we've had the 19 series for a couple of years, we've actually done some surveys that students have reported back. So 100% of students that have taken Math 19 help them understand things later they learned in the upper division economic courses. 100% of our students said that calculus would be useful in their major. And then 88% said that analyzing data using computers would also be useful in their major. So pretty much across the board is that the 19 series is applicable to the economics major almost in a direct way. And then general responses, you can see here that they appreciated the breadth of things that were covered in the 19 series. You can read there the specifics of what was covered. And they even said, what was repeatedly that came up in the math series and in their economic classes. It gave them that exposure that they need to be successful moving forward. They even said advisors really need to stress to students that it is hard. Calculus is hard around the board. And there are tools that can help you prepare for that. And we have a great resource called the Academic Assistance and Tutoring Center that have math specialists that can really help. And I'll talk about those in a minute. And then just having this exposure is just useful in their upper division classes, as I mentioned before. And they're very glad they took the Math 19. And it says all of the difficult topics that were covered seem difficult and a lot to handle when you're taking the class, but you'll be glad that you got that exposure for that coming, later on. So you can just see that, yes, it is, calculus is hard. The 19 series has 3 classes. It has that lab, it has that discussion, but you will be thankful later on in your upper division economic courses as you do intermediate micro, intermediate macro, your data analytics course, and so forth. This is just another survey question of what advice would you give future students in the major if you're trying to decide. And you'll see Math 19, again, very applicable to the economics major. It's beneficial for not only economics, but managerial economics students, which is similar. It helps explain ways in an economic sense. And then, as we mentioned, if you're going to engineering, take the 21 series. So you'll really see that big difference between the 19 and the 21. As I mentioned, the Academic Assistance and Tutoring Center, they have math code classes. So even if you are, calculus comes easy to you and natural, we still encourage to take the math code classes. And what this is, it's essentially a math specialist that you take, I believe it's once or twice a week, and you just work with them on those problem sets that you've learned in class. So during your Password registration, we highly encourage to go on this. We can provide the link in our email as a follow-up, but you'll see that you can easily add this to your full schedule. Workload classes, so this is considered a workload. It doesn't carry degree credit towards your 180, but they do count towards your minimum progress and your full-time status. So no matter what, it's still beneficial to add these co-classes and to receive that support that you may or may not need. But again, just having that consistency and that support is essential. There's also the UC Davis Math Department tutors. They have their own tutors quarterly. And then there's a thing called the Calculus Room, which I believe they have grad students attend. And essentially, it's like a virtual room and maybe in person if they change that. But essentially, it's them giving their time to help you through those calculus courses. And of course, we recommend instructor and TA office hours. They are there to help you. So utilize their time as you continue through these courses. Professor Wilson, would you like to add anything about just your experience with students talking about the Math 19 series?
Absolutely. So what's great about the AATC is that you can sign up for their co-classes and not go if you don't want to go, but still have access to all their resources. So again, even if you're like, wow, it's, it might be one more hour, then you just sign up. And then what happens is usually after the first midterm, you're like, oh gosh, I could really use some more help. And you have it embedded in your schedule and you can go. It's almost like a study hall. Like I highly recommend you just go and do your homework there in the calc room. And then as questions come up, you can get help from folks in the room or the AATC co-class. You can go and start working on your homework. When it comes to math and understanding math, I have a technique that has worked for every student that I have received feedback from. It worked. And that is this: read the textbook before you go to lecture. Go to lecture and take notes by hand, like paper and pencil. If you're really stuck with technology and you're like, I can't not have my technology, do a tablet and write on the tablet. Do not take notes by typing on your computer. And that goes for all of your classes. All of this brain research says that handwriting connects the concepts to your brain in a whole different way. Then try the problem set on your own, looking at your notes. Like look at your notes, try the problem sets. Then at that point, ask any questions, go to office hours, go to the tutoring center, get all of the help you need. Then do the problem set again, cold, like not looking at your notes, like try to do it again. This is why when I was studying math, I would get all sorts of help and then I would get into my math classes on the exam and not know how to start a problem. In calculus, you just have to get it started. Like the rest is just algebra, but you have to be able to set it up. And so that's where getting that ability to take the words that they're asking you and put them into numbers becomes really helpful. So I highly recommend AATC. I highly recommend placing yourself in wherever you need to be, pre-calc or calc. There is no rush here. Like, I know that it's felt like there is a rush to like jump ahead and be ahead. You're here to learn. You're paying us a lot of money for you to learn. And so taking this opportunity to just really get practice and get to know it and feel good about your background knowledge in math and mathematical modeling will serve you really well moving forward. So those are my thoughts. Studying math is one of those things where it's like studying a sport. Like you have to keep at it. It's like a little bit each day. Keep trying until that light kind of like clicks. And then there's another concept and you do the whole thing again. So those are my thoughts when it comes to these series. The responses on the survey, it's super helpful. Yes, it's some time. Yep. And then you'll be able to access that information when you're in those upper division classes. What's funny about being an economist is you walk in the room and people are discussing a problem. And they're like, oh, you're an economist. Oh, the reason they go, Oh, is because you went through the math. So this is your opportunity. Get that badge, and we'll be here to support you.
Perfectly said. Well, thank you again for attending this session for the calculus webinar. And you can always email us at ehe advising center at ucdavis.edu if you have any follow-up questions.